Hello, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and I'm excited today to be bringing you the Misery May recommendations collaboration video where I have asked a swath of my absolute favourite booktubers to recommend you books for Misery May. If you missed the announcement video, the theme this year is a world of misery, trying to read miserable books from every continent, and so I have asked my fellow booktubers to recommend you books and tell us what country and continent they are from to give you some ideas if you need some. So without further ado, let's head to my fabulous bank of booktubers.
Hello Gemma! So for Misery May, you wanted a little bit of a miserable May and we're going to give it to you. So here we go. My pick for your Misery May is a book I read at the start of 2025. It was the first book I read in 2025. It probably most definitely is going to make my best reads of 2025. I'm a little late to the game with this one, but it is Hurricane Season by Fernanda Melchor. Southern North America, Mexico, originally written in Spanish. I believe it was nominated for the Booker Prize. It may have even won the Booker Prize. I'm not too sure. The International Booker Prize, that is. From your reading style, I'm unsure how you're going to get on with it because it is just dense prose. And I don't know why, but I get a feeling you're not too into that. Nevertheless, there's a reason for it, and that dense prose just builds up this intensity. The entire novel is set around this small community, this small little Mexican town, in which there's this witch, this character that's been deemed the witch, and they are murdered, and we find out they've been murdered at the start of the novel, and we follow different character perspectives and the build-up to that murder. And it's just, all of these characters have such, hard lives, and the entire novel is just this constant, relentless sort of brutality, and it's just grim, and the way it makes you feel and the things that happen, the violence in it is just whoa. So yeah, this is my pick. If you want to feel miserable, this is my pick. However, don't let that take away from how beautifully written it is. So enjoy your miserable May, Gemma. This is my pick.
Misery May is upon us and Gemma asked me to recommend a book. So what better to recommend than a book that she herself sent me, and it is The Mountains Sing by Nguyen Phan Quay Mai. Dr. Nguyen Phan Quay Mai is from Vietnam, and this is her book all about one family's experiences during the major conflicts in Vietnam in the 20th century. We start off with a granddaughter at the start of it's 1972, so it's during the American-Vietnamese conflict, and she is talking, basically going through a lot of things at that point, and her grandmother is helping her and then thinking back to her experiences of war and the trauma that is brought to the family. And so it is a really heartbreaking, wrenching book. It's been compared to Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, and I think that's probably a fair comparison. I found this book really hard going, but also extremely rewarding because I learned a lot about Vietnam and the experiences of the Vietnamese people. So that is my recommendation for Misery May.
Hi, I'm Ben from the channel Ben Reads Good. Jem has asked me to share some miserable recommendations for you, and I'm actually going to be cheeky and share two. My first one is from the UK, so Western Europe, and that is Tin Man by Sarah Winman. This is a story about friendship and queerness and love and loss. I don't remember too many of the finer details of this one because I read it a number of years ago, but I do remember sitting in a minibus on my way back from a wine tour in the Douro Valley in Portugal, reading the final pages of this book and sobbing my eyes out. Now, I don't want to underestimate the role that the wine played in that feeling, but it's definitely a gut punch of a novel, and I think a really beautiful one. My other suggestion is a book that I haven't actually read myself yet, but I'm using this as an excuse to bump it up my priorities list. It's from Eastern Europe in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and that is Body Kintsugi by Senka Maric. This is a book about a woman whose husband leaves her, and then very shortly after she finds a lump in her breast and goes through the experience of being treated for and recovering from cancer. Kintsugi is the Japanese art of putting broken ceramics back together and making a feature of their cracks rather than hiding them, and this book transposes that idea onto the human body. So I think it sounds brilliant. I think it is right up Gem's street, and I'd actually quite like to buddy read it with you, Gem, if you're up for that. Okay, thanks, bye.
Hiya! So my recommendation for you is What Happened to Belen by Elena Correa, translated from the Spanish by Julia Sanches. This is a non-fiction book, and we are following an Argentinian woman who is called Belen. I think that's a pseudonym, to be fair. And it's what happened in 2014 when Belen went to hospital with what she thought was a stomachache, and then what ended up happening was a heartbreaking story that is happening across the globe now. She was actually having a miscarriage, and she was then subsequently imprisoned for homicide. This book follows Belen's case and how it influenced local laws. It also highlights the importance of raising our voices and demanding change. So yeah, obviously that's why I picked it. It is obviously an extremely heartbreaking subject matter, but it's an extremely important thing for us all to be learning about. It's not actually a very long book, it's only 220 pages, but a very powerful one. So yeah, there you go. Bye!
Hi, my name is Jennifer from the channel Jenniferlovesbooks. Gemma has asked me to recommend a miserable book, and I'm going to recommend, which is probably one of the bleakest books I've ever read, called The Vanishing by Tim Krabbe, who is a Dutch author. It was originally published in Dutch under the title The Golden Egg. And this is about a couple who are on a road trip, stop off at a gas station, and the woman uses the bathroom and then she just completely disappears. Her boyfriend can find no trace of her. The police have no idea what's happened to her. She's just vanished. And then we're following this man years on as he is completely obsessed. His life has been completely taken over by trying to work out what happened to his girlfriend. How did she just vanish into thin air? This book is dark and it is very, very bleak.
Hi everyone, I'm Sandy from the channel MsReads A Lot, and my pick for Misery May is Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. This is a short little book at 88 pages, but it is packed full of misery for Ethan Frome. Right from the beginning, you learn that something happened to him a long time ago that made him this kind of very sad individual, and then as you go throughout the book, you learn exactly what it is. And his misery and his sadness is very well earned in this book. Oh, I mean, yeah, if you want a true, miserable book with a character who is just sad, but don't want to have to read 500 pages, I would give Ethan Frome a shot because, yeah, he's kind of the definition of miserable in this particular book. I hope you enjoy it.
Hello, it's Sarah here from Your Two Shelf, and my Misery May recommendation is for When We Were Sisters by Fatima Asghar. This is a beautiful novel from an author who has Pakistani and Kashmiri heritage and who has grown up in America. We're following three sisters, Noreen, Aisha and Kausar is the narrator of the story. All three sisters are orphaned by the time that our protagonist is around the age of 7. And they are left without anyone looking after them. They have an uncle who becomes their legal guardian, but he takes their inheritance and he takes the government checks that he's provided with for looking after them. And in return, he leaves them in really unsuitable housing with no money, and he comes in and out of their lives on a very fleeting basis. He also uses the spare rooms in their house to rent out to illegal immigrants to get extra money for himself. He will pitch up at different points in the girls' lives and will be very strict with them and tell them off for things, even though he wasn't having any input in their lives in the first place. Fatima Asghar is a non-binary poet, and they have a beautiful way with words, and the formatting of the book is also stunning. The uncle's name is blanked out in every time he's mentioned in the book, and this also adds another extra something to the way that the book is presented. I think this book is so moving, so unusual in style, and is also an exploration of gender, as our narrator is struggling to identify what they feel their gender is. Fatima Asghar lost both of their parents when they were 6, and so there's a lot that's been derived from their own life in this story, which makes it even more poignant and a beautiful exploration of grief and sisterhood.
Hi Gemma and fellow Misery May lovers, this is Katya from Page Turners with Katya, and my recommendation would be 100 Flowers by Genki Kawamura, translated by Kathy Hirano. You might know Kawamura from If Cats Disappeared from the World. Well, this book is just as reflective and quietly devastating, but even more so. And there's no magical realism in sight. It is so grounded in reality. You could imagine this being a family member or someone you know. We're following a man in his 30s grappling with the idea of becoming a father for the first time, while he's also dealing with caring duties and all sorts of work-related things in his life. Caring duties for his mother, who is slowly slipping into dementia. And this book is very much about memory, as she is losing her memory and he is revisiting memories of his childhood. It's memories, silences, missed conversations, all of that. It's a novel about forgetting as well as remembering. And it is so tender without being sentimental. There are some unresolved bits, so again, very realistic. I would say if you like The Housekeeper and The Professor by Yoko Ogawa, definitely pick up this book. For me, it had that slow, aching recognition of life's impermanence. The fact that loss can be something that is both so ordinary to us, but also quite unbearable and scary to think about. So most of us put off thinking about it. And I think this is a perfect pick for Misery May.
Hi, it's Rose from Scallydandling About the Books, and I'm here with a recommendation for Misery May from the continent of South America. And it's specifically from Argentina by the author Selva Almada. Now, it's one of a sequence of 3 books that Almada's written that are not linked by like plot or characters, but by theme, because they're all kind of about what it is to be a man in Argentina nowadays, and then the impact of that, of sort of masculinity in her country on women as well. Now, the 3rd book in sequence became available in English last year, and that's Not a River, and that is a tremendous book. But the one that I want to recommend for Misery May is Brickmakers, which was the one before. And why? Because it's a perfect Misery May book, okay? Because it is the dying thoughts of 2 young men who are lying bleeding in a kind of empty amusement park at night. Yeah, doesn't that sound like a Misery May setup? And it's the story of how they got there. And to tell that story, it kind of goes back through their lives, but also their parents' lives. It's about sexuality, it's about poverty, it's about the impact of growing up in challenging circumstances in a poor community in Argentina. And if that all sounds extraordinarily miserable, yes, it is, but that is balanced out by the humanity of the book, the characters, and the fact that it is really beautifully written, and that the English translation, if you read it in English, by Annie McDermott, is a first-rate translation.
And that is that. You have some great book recs here from some great people. So I would love to know what you're going to dive into for Misery May. Scott has likewise done a similar video. Hello, Charlie. And so you will get even more fabulous BookTubers, fabulous recommendations over there. I will link that video below for you. I will pop the Misery May announcement video here. And I hope that we can all have a very cheerful, snot-induced May together. Bye, guys.